name is Carey Voss, and I'm Curator of Exhibits here at Historic Arkansas Museum. Today we're going to talk a little bit about one of our newest exhibits, Conspicuous Consumption. Conspicuous Consumption has many beautiful objects and a lot of wonderful details, but one of my favorites are the transferware pieces. We're going to talk a little bit about transferware and the wonderful patterns and details that we were able to incorporate in this exhibit. This beautiful display is a group of what's called transferware. Many of you may have transferware in your homes, or perhaps your grandparents had transferware. A lot of you will recognize this blue plate, which is called Blue Willow. Blue Willow is a very popular design in China and has been used literally for centuries and interpreted so many ways. In the 18th century and the 19th century, there were no copyright rules in Great Britain where these pieces were created, having to do with images. And so really anybody could use any image for anything they wanted. True to that idea, these are imitations. So transferware is an imitation of very valuable Chinese porcelain. And Chinese porcelains were sought after for centuries by European nobility. It was so popular that the Chinese created a special export porcelain trade just for the European market. And so at the beginning, Chinese porcelain, which would have been hand-painted, was very, very expensive. They were also secretive about their recipe to create porcelain, the clay that Chinese porcelain is made from. And so only the wealthiest people, we're talking like kings, nobility, really wealthy people, were able to afford to own hand-painted Chinese porcelain. One of the wonderful things that happened for the middle class in the 18th and 19th century is that the ever-enterprising British figured out a way to create something that looked like precious Chinese porcelain for a fraction of the price. And that was made possible for two reasons. They created a kind of creamware, which was an earthenware or stoneware that looked a lot like the beautiful white color of porcelain. But the major innovation was in printing. So you may not be able to tell unless you get really close, but these images are not hand-painted. The way that the images were created is a lot like a temporary tattoo. So an image would be created using the printmaking process, and the plate for the print would be inked with a heat-sensitive pigment. It would be pressed into a tissue paper, and that tissue paper would be laid on the blank plate in a particular pattern that created this image. Then the plate would go into the kiln and it would be fired at very high temperatures, which would burn away the paper, leaving behind the permanent heat-sensitive pigment. So that's the way these pieces were created. They were not painted by hand. They were prints. And you can see along the edges of some of them how the prints don't match exactly, or on this bottom piece, the brown piece, you can see that the transfer gets kind of messed up a little bit around the bottom. These pieces were inexpensive enough that almost anyone could own these beautiful patterned pieces. They came in so many different colors, not just that blue willow. And whereas they may have started out imitating the oriental patterns of original hand-painted Chinese porcelain, by the end of the 19th century, you could find any kind of pattern on a transferware piece. Most of these pieces were made in Staffordshire, England, but they were used in Arkansas. And in fact, in the 19th century in Arkansas, if you were to go to someone's home and they were entertaining you, they would bring out their best set of transferware, most of which would have been made in Staffordshire. I'd also like to draw your attention very quickly to another detail that we incorporated in this exhibit. You'll see that these transferware pieces are sitting on top of a wallpaper that uses one of those Oriental toile graphic themes that you could have also seen on the plates, the transferware plates. It's just meant to remind you to look at the details in this exhibit, because every detail is very intentional, and all of our details are meant to remind you of the objects that we have selected for this exhibit. So we hope that all of our thoughts and all of these little bitty bits that you can see throughout the exhibit make it richer and help remind everybody of the theme of the exhibit, conspicuous consumption, the Victorian idea that more is more. Thank you so much for joining me today. Please come and visit Historic Arkansas Museum. Our grounds and our museum is open Tuesday through Saturday, 9 to 5, and Sunday, 1 to 5 p.m. We hope to see you very soon.